Good morning. It's your girl Germaine, and this is Morning Brew with, yes, your girl Germaine. So I'm trying to get my coffee together. I'm excited because guess what day it is? Hey, if you know, you know. Today's Mixed Blend Wednesdays, and we have a special guest in studio. Give me a second. Let me just get my coffee together because, whew, I'm excited. This is a conversation that has been brewing for a moment, and we finally have him in studio with us. So if you are chiming in, please let us know what you are drinking today. You know, today I have my hazelnut, but it is a cappuccino. It's not coffee. It's a cappuccino. So good morning, Diana Knox over on YouTube. Well, let me get into this because I don't want our guests waiting too long in studio, okay? So the Mixed Blend Brew today is the Manhood Tree, growing stronger roots for men, fathers, and families. Our guest is Abdul-Rahmaan I. And you know what? I'm going to call him Abdul because I don't want to jack anybody's name up. And he'll correct me once we get, once we bring him in. But let me talk to you about really what today's topic is going to be about. Every man's life begins with roots, where he's from, who's poured into him, and what he's learned along the way. But too often, those roots are tested by trauma, silence, and societal expectations that keep men from expressing healing or connecting deeply. So in this powerful mixed blend conversation with Abdul, the visionary, Abdul-Rahmaan, the visionary founder of My People's Clinical Services in Hartford, Connecticut, and creator of the Manhood Tree, he joins me to unpack what really it means to grow into manhood with purpose and accountability. So this episode will explore how men can strengthen their emotional and spiritual foundations and grow deeper roots to sustain families, community for generations to come. All right, that's enough for me. Let me bring my guests in, okay, who can really break it down for us. So give me a second. Abdul.
Good morning, Germaine. How are you today?
I am so good. This is a long time coming. I mean, the good thing is we have opportunities to talk a lot about just really your vision and what's going on with your community and your initiatives. But I am so glad that you are able to come on Mixed Blend Wednesdays and share your vision and really the passion you have around the Manhood Tree. And you're going to break this Manhood Tree down into So before we get into that, right? Please say your full name correctly.
Yes. You kind of messed it up. Abdul-Rahmaan Ibn Muhammad.
Okay. Okay. See, I didn't see the Ibn Muhammad. I see everything, but I didn't see. I saw I. So,
Ibn, it means son of. So it's like everybody else they're junior, but in the Muslim religion you put Ibn, Ibn Muhammad. So like you could just call me Ibn Muhammad, because I'm the son of Muhammad, my father.
Okay. Okay. So how would you like me to call you today? What would you like me to call you?
Call me Abdul, like you always do. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. So before we get into this conversation, it's a lot of excitement about what just happened in New York. Any thoughts on that? Any thoughts on the new mayor for New York?
No, I watched a little bit about his platform and everything, and I think that he's going to do some good stuff for the people. So I'm always in line with anybody that's going to do by the people. So I'm excited to see what he'll do over the next 4 years.
Absolutely. You know what I say? It's good to have young energy, young insight, people that are hungry for change. So I think we're all going to be looking to see what happens. So
maybe he'll inspire other people as well,
That's what I'm hoping for. So, all right. So let's talk about this a little. So tell me a little bit about this journey and what inspired you to come up with the Manhood Tree.
Yeah, I mean, For the last 20 years, I've really been engaged in working with fathers a lot, doing trainings around fatherhood, helping people with fatherhood engagement. And, through my work with fathers, I started thinking about how, in some ways, people they see fathers like they have this view of fathers and a view of fatherhood, and it almost is like fatherhood without manhood. And so
Mhm.
so what I started thinking about was that I thought it was, before you become a father, you are more than likely a man. And
Mhm.
so to me, I just started thinking a lot about what came first, and the reality that if you want to have better fathers, you need to have better men. You need to be a better man. And so I think that I started working on the Manhood Tree as a tool for men, or a space for men to be able to really kind of like think about certain aspects of their life they may have kind of like forgotten about or just sped through and not really dealt with fully. And I really wanted to give men an opportunity to kind of like communicate and talk about, some of the things that they've been through that have impacted the man that they've become.
I think it's so special because, at some point, every single person has a story centered around a father, whether
Mm.
he's an absent father, like I could say for myself, my dad was absent in my life.
Wow.
He
Yeah.
was he was present to the point I knew him. I'm really, I'm close with my father's side of the family.
Hmm.
But my dad had his own struggles, which
Right.
means it was a lot of broken promises that never manifested, but he was still my dad,
Of course.
you
Yeah.
know?
You should write a,
Um
a fatherhood monologue. You should, we're going to be having a,
uh,
a show next year with an all woman cast. Maybe you
what?
should join our group. Yeah, you're going to.
What?
Yeah, so maybe you think
I
about
might need to do that. And we're going to talk more about the monologues.
that.
Yes, because that was such a brilliant and unique way to really express, the journey of fatherhood.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
a lot of people, and even when we look today, so you have come with a solution. I like to say a solution. You
Uh-huh.
might not want to call it that,
Yeah.
or would you? That's a big task, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's a lot to put
That's
on.
weighty.
Yeah. Uh-huh. I don't
Okay,
know if I
what
would
what
say
if I say
solution.
a piece of a solution, a piece of the
Yeah.
solution?
Oh, I say that. Yeah.
But you also go into the prison systems because you are really committed to this initiative of getting
Mhm.
this message out abroad on a larger scale.
Yes.
And so talk to us a little bit about, you have something called the Six Hoods.
Hmm. Yeah.
What is that exactly?
Well, before I created the entire Manhood Tree curriculum, I was doing like presentations, and
Hmm.
and the presentations were to have a discussion. Initially it was probably like four hoods because I kept adding, a couple more after I thought about it more. And so, but
Okay.
the six hoods are neighborhood, boyhood, young adulthood, brotherhood, fatherhood, and manhood. And so
Okay.
these hoods are ultimately phases of life or environments that all men have to go through.
Okay. I'm going to post that.
Yeah,
Are you okay with me posting that? The
sure,
Six
why not?
Hoods?
Yeah.
Um, So, what can one expect, and how do you go about reaching out to the community to even introduce this to those out there? Because do you find there's resistance, or people are more open because they want to find out more about it?
Yeah, I mean, when I was doing the presentations, there's a lot of opportunity to go speak. We'll speak at prisons, speak at different men's groups around the community, and so I think that people are open to the discussion. And so one of the things I learned from the discussion, just having a few questions and everything, it made me actually want to go a little bit deeper. And I thought that I would need to create a curriculum that was a
Mhm.
little bit that a little bit more structured and more ordered so that they would be able to not just have a conversation for an hour about the six hoods, but really to have a 10-week discussion about the antecedents of manhood and the like living life as a man fully. So I think that's what led me to creating the whole curriculum, going beyond just the six hoods, but using the six hoods as the foundation for the rest of the curriculum.
So you're talking about the curriculum. Is it okay? I do want to share because you're in the process or you've packaged your curriculum, and I want to be able to let people know how
Mhm.
they can engage to actually register to be a part of this community, to
Sure.
be able to have you come to wherever they may be and share your curriculum with them.
Mhm.
So hold on, as we're talking, I'm going to pull that up so people can see. And I think it's just amazing, even the cover, how you really give the different visuals for the six hoods.
Mhm.
So so now let's while I'm pulling this up, let's go a little bit also into what made you want to go into the prison systems?
Hmm. Well, I think that one of the great things about the prison. I mean, I don't think the prisoners would say this, but the great thing about the prison is that they're gonna show up. They're gonna be there, right?
It's
They're
an
not going anywhere.
automatic audience.
Yeah, and so oftentimes, if you think about men in our community,
Hmm.
men in our community are busy. They're picking up kids. They're at work. They don't think they need a group. They don't want to go to a group. And I
That's true.
think that one thing about prison is that you have time to think about a lot of stuff. And so when you have an opportunity to be in a group like the Manhood Tree, there's a lot of things that can be uncovered and dealt with to make you a better man. And I think that, like I said, men that are out in the community, they don't have the same mindset all the time. Even though we have a great group of men that have participated in the Manhood Tree, but I just think it's a little bit more difficult to engage the men in the community than in prison, because in the prison I always have like a waiting list of men that want to be able to get in the next round of the group. And so I think it was a important place to, because I like the idea that people, the men that happen to be in prison, they have I think a deeper level of insight. One story I'll tell is that I did a group in the prison, and typically our groups only have 5 people in it because we wanted to have them do a lot of
Yeah.
talking. And so I
Hmm.
had 2 men. They went through the whole 10 weeks of the group, and then the plan was that they were going to facilitate the next group. And so then we started the next group. And then after the first session, they basically said that they didn't want to facilitate; they just wanted to participate again. And so
Mm.
one of the things that I learned about the Manhood Tree group is that even though they had gone through the whole group the first time, they had more to share in the second round. And I think that that also goes into trust. So by the second round, there was a higher level of trust with me as a facilitator, and their
Absolutely.
willingness to share and kind of model for the other men that were in the group was much more heightened. And I thought it was very powerful to just hear the other things that they decided to reveal the second round.
Why do you think it resonates so with them? Because I'm quite sure what you're bringing, and you said over 10 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
that you're showing up consistently so they can trust the process. But I'm quite sure they haven't seen anything offered like this in that space that they're in.
Well, most of the times with men, um, we're taught to hold our emotions in. We're taught to hide our feelings, and
Yeah,
so we go through our whole lives, being a certain way. And I think about it in prison. I'm sure that's even heightened a certain to another level. But I think
absolutely.
that when we can create an environment where men are able to kind of share their feelings, share their thoughts, talk about their traumas, and really kind of have the support around them to deal with it, you can get a different outcome for them in their future. I think a lot of times some of the issues and problems that men are having, whether in prison or in the community, is because they don't have an outlet to be able to say, like,
Uh,
I'm upset about what happened to me as a child. I'm mad because nobody helped me find the right path as a young man. And so I think that the Manhood Tree is a tool that allows for them to be able to get those feelings out.
it's a safe space also just by you saying that, even as a woman, sometimes just looking for a safe space that, I just want to cry right now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, right,
And being able, as a man, which he is groomed and taught, that's a sign of weakness to shed tears.
right, exactly.
But so what are you finding from the men? And do you have it? Let me say this. Do you have where you have the father, the son in the groups together? Have you
We never had a father and son in a group together.
really?
No. We've had
Okay.
yeah, we've never had that.
Hey,
And I
that
think
might
it
be
would
an
be
opportunity.
I think no, I think it would be a very interesting group because think about it. You're a daughter, so like I'm a son. My there's things about my father as a when he was growing up that I'll never know. It's
Absolutely.
not like it's a conversation that you would have like, hey dad, when you were a boy, so if we ever had that situation, I think it would be extremely powerful because there would be a deeper level of understanding that the son would have about his father, and maybe even the father to his son, because once
Absolutely.
again there's things that we're experiencing that is only for ourselves. We don't talk about it, we don't tell anybody about it, and so
Yeah.
I think that would make that would be something else.
Wow. You know what? I just saw, a child being able to ask their dad certain questions of why, even especially if the dad has been absent. A lot of
Mm,
times we want to draw our own conclusions why they're not there,
right.
but we don't know the struggles. And a lot of times we don't even take the time to listen to the stories of what one is really dealing with and why the decisions are what they are.
Well, interestingly enough, this summer when we had our men's health and wellness weekend, one of the workshops that we did was called "Speak Life into a Brother," and
Yes.
I actually had the opportunity to. My son was the brother that came up for
Mm,
me to speak life into him, and so like on a day-to-day basis, I'm not likely gonna pull him up and tell him how great he is. I'm not gonna tell him that I love him I don't do that. So, but on that day, it was an opportunity for me as a father to speak
wow.
directly to my son and let him know how proud I am of him, how much I love him, how much I want for him to be able to have a great life and a successful life. And so on our podcast, the Manhood Tree podcast, on a few occasions since that we've been able to have actually me and Zoe, who's the co-host,
Yes.
we brought in both of our sons, so we did a 2-hour speak life into a
Wow.
brother workshop with our sons, and then we've had other occasions where fathers and sons have come in and did that same activity, and I think it's extremely powerful because like I
Yeah.
said, these are conversations that are never had most of the time.
Absolutely. Wow. So, question.
Mm-hmm.
How did he respond?
My
When
son.
you're there just pouring, was his first response like, "Dad, why are you doing this?" Or
No, no,
but what
no.
was his response in receiving that?
Well, I mean, at the Men's Health and Wellness weekend, both of us were crying. We
Yeah,
were.
I
It
can
was
see
it was
that.
an emotional moment, and we ended off with a hug. I think when we did the show, we were a little bit more composed because I think we knew what was going to happen for the show, but
Yes.
that first time it was really like, man, this is my son, and I mean, it's I have a picture right behind me. You see, I don't know if you can see it
Yes.
very clearly,
Family
but that's
picture.
my son
Yes.
right there, right? When he's a
Yes.
little boy, and my son's he's 18 years old. He's a big guy, and so it's a lot of times as a father, I'll look at that picture and I recognize how fast that the time from there to where he is right now, it went
Wow.
very quickly. And I often say to fathers that especially young fathers, that you have to cherish that time because it's so fleeting.
Absolutely.
They don't stay like that very long, and so I think that if you have an opportunity to speak life into your son or speak life into your daughter, you should take those opportunities every time you can.
Listen, I have to be honest and I have to tell you, I am so thankful for your fatherhood retreats, for
Mm-hmm.
the gathering of you bringing men together annually. And that's just one event. You do several things really empowering men.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I'm so thankful is because my husband is a recipient of it.
Yeah.
And I see the difference. And I
Mm-hmm.
encourage him. Ladies, I'm going to say this. If you are married, allow your husband the freedom to
Mm-hmm.
be a part of something that's going to help build him, which is only going to help build the unit at home.
That's right.
And I look forward to it. And as stubborn as he can be sometime, I'm
Mm.
always encouraging him. You need to get out there and you need to go
That's right.
because he comes home different every time.
That's good to hear.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. That's good to hear. Yeah.
no, let me tell you, it's working.
Mhm. Mhm.
It is working. So I want to pull up the cover because I want people to just see. Now, this is something you have to go through, and I'm going to post your, actually, give me your website real quick, and then I'll post the cover. How people can find out
TheManhoodTree.com.
more information. Go ahead.
TheManhoodTree.com.
I thought so.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to put this in for people to be able to go and find out more information. But let me pull up the cover.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the cover is so unique because you break down all the different hoods and
Mm-hmm.
you really speak. The covers, each one of the images is so powerful and really kind of giving an idea of what one can expect. But even your inspiration behind this,
Mm-hmm.
the imagery, what was that?
Well, I mean, one of the things that's always important to me as an African American male is to be able to highlight, so as you can see, most of the images are of African American men. And I think that's important. The population, I mean, a lot of times we are kind of like an add-on as opposed as the focus. And so the majority of people that I've been working with have been African American and Latino men. And so I just felt like it was important to have them on the cover. And I think also just being able to, see the men in brotherhood and see the
Yeah,
men kind of like thoughtful as opposed to, kind of like, in a negative sight. These are all
absolutely.
positive images of men. And so I think that speaks to the possibility of what manhood is. Is manhood a positive thing? Is it a negative thing? What type of men are we? And so, just the images, I think, is a starting point for that thought process and conversation.
It's when I see that, it's really changing the narrative and it's really showing the power of who we are,
Mm-hmm.
especially our men. Our men get such a bad rap there. When I say that, is literally you deal with whatever you're dealing with at home, but then you have to deal with societal issues going out in this world.
Right.
And then the picture that's painted, and I just believe it all comes back to destroying the Black family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so being able to uplift men and let them know the power that they possess, I think that what you do, it speaks volumes to that, being able to embody that. And so, like you said, those images are images of power, but it changed the narrative for when we want to see our Black men in negative lights.
Right.
And there's so much more. The stories, my whole platform is about the power of one stories, even though it's packaged up in Morning Brew with Germaine, come have a coffee with me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but the power of our stories, and sometimes men's stories aren't heard.
That's right. Yeah.
They're true, authentic stories. So
Mm-hmm.
you giving this platform for men to know their value and their worth just speaks volumes to the selflessness that you possess. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, listen, you're so modest, but absolutely, absolutely. So, all right, so let's look at this. You talked about the men's health and wellness weekend that you do, and you
Mhm.
do that pretty much once a year.
Yes.
Now, is it for any men that want to join, or how do you go about even recruiting men to be a part of it? Is there a certain amount of men that can be a part of it?
Yeah, I mean, this past year, I mean, the first year we had 25 men. We went up to Vermont. This
Mhm.
year, this is only my second year doing it. This year we had 25 men stay. We did it right here in Connecticut. 25 men stayed, but a total of 38 men came up for workshops on Saturday. And so,
Mhm.
and then next year, I think we're gonna go to Dominican Republic. So I think we won't limit the amount that can come, but whatever that amount is will
Exactly.
only be the people that'll be a part of it.
Oh my gosh, you're about to spoil them.
Yeah, well, we'll
I feel
see.
like DR is like second home.
Right, right, right. I think that one of our main focuses of the Men's Health and Wellness Weekend is rest,
Yes.
and relaxation and rejuvenation. And so I think that, going out of the country, going to a resort where you can, eat and kind of like chill out, be in the sun and all those good things, I think will will enhance the experience of the weekend.
You said something, rest, relaxation, getting your mental right. Self-care is something that's real big. And a lot of times I don't think we value it enough.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've gotten so accustomed to operating in burnout mode that it's just a part of our life. But how important is self-care?
Well, I think it's extremely important. I mean, and I would say it's important for everyone, but specifically for men, I think especially nowadays with the internet and all that type of stuff, you're constantly seeing somebody who's doing something, and it
Yes.
makes you feel like you're not doing enough. So what do? You do more. And
Yeah.
so I think that when you switch the narrative a little bit to say like, hey, yes, you can go out there and grind, but you also need to take care of yourself. I mean, your self-care is should be the highest care that you're giving, because you're no good to anybody else if
Absolutely.
you can't take care of yourself. And so we emphasize self-care. I see a lot of men, working, 16-hour days. We have a culture of saying like, I'm on the grind, and
Yep.
so I think that in between all of that, we're not really taking care of ourselves, and we're also not taking care of our mental and physical health, which could lead to problems down the line. And so when you put self-care at the top, you're like more in tune with what do I need,
Yeah.
what supports am I looking for, and then you have a totally different way of dealing with the world because of the care that you're taking for yourself.
I ditto that.
Mm-hmm.
And I so agree to it. I'm always telling my husband boundaries are so important and being able to establish boundaries. But I just did a morning brew on boundaries. And I think the way people look at the word sometimes words can cause more harm than good because of
Mm-hmm.
how somebody internalized that word.
Right.
But it's being able to make you the leading man in your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
are the leading man in your life. But when you give that power away to everybody, then it reduces you down to trying to find your way,
Yeah.
find yourself.
Well,
So,
well, men for the longest time the role that they've taken is the role of the provider. So that
yes.
means that they have to go out every day and they go make the money and bring home the bacon and all that kind of stuff. All these terms that we use. But the thing is that in that process, we're falling apart.
Exactly.
We're neglecting certain aspects of our lives that will help us have longer lives, help us be our best. And so, there's a lot of fathers, a lot of men, they're just grumpy and they're angry. And it
Yeah.
goes back to self-care. It goes back to not taking time for themselves, not staying up to date on their health. And so I think
Yeah.
that we need to kind of like switch the narrative a little bit to say, yeah, you should go out and try to do your best to provide for your family and for yourself. But at the same time, you should also take some time to be able to relax and rejuvenate and get yourself to be at the best you can possibly be.
And you know what? Let's talk about this for a few minutes because I think that's such a valid point. But I think it's teamwork, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And sometimes, and I can only speak for my own experiences, my own relationship, but
Mm-hmm.
when I think about it, I know how hard my husband works. I
Mm-hmm.
know how hard he's out there. He's working, he's slaving, he's trying to provide, he's doing this, he's doing that.
Yeah.
And he sacrifices the self-care portion of it. He
Mm-hmm.
sacrifices the family time and all that stuff because in his mind, it's almost like he's just programmed. I got to do this in order to provide to get this. And I sometimes just want him to open up because I think when you become so familiar and accustomed to doing a thing and it's become your daily, your routine, that
Mm-hmm.
you don't allow room for other things to be seen or you to have other experiences to know, like, oh my gosh, I've been killing myself and it didn't take all this. You
Mm-hmm.
mean if we come together and we team up and we can do this so I can get the proper rest that I need, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So I just think, how do we get over these things sometimes to let men know that you carry a lot on your shoulders,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
open yourself up to know there is support.
Right.
And you know what? And a lot of times, being the provider, I think men equate it with making the finances to take care of this, this, and this. But as women, we probably look at being a provider as more than just that, because it could be, it's like the support of your well-being first and foremost, because Lord knows I'd rather have you with me than you not be here because you're killing yourself.
Right.
Two, but then the support of the emotional support also for the needs of your mate. And it's vice versa. This goes both ways, you know. So you can't stress your man, make him feel like he's under all this pressure, and then expect all these things from him.
Right.
But how do we get through, or how can we talk to our men, or how can we help them to see that, you know, I don't want you to kill yourself for the sake of you feeling this is the only way you can provide. But let's look at this thing on a whole nother level, you know, to take some of the pressure off of you.
Right.
How do we do that?
I think you just got to do it. I mean, you know, it's
that
you just
easy,
got to have a comment. Yeah, I mean, it's. I think that we don't talk enough.
That's it.
It has to be like a conversation though, where both people have open ears and they're able to hear what the other person has to say, because like I think that men often carry a lot of value in what they can provide, how they can provide.
Yes,
So
that's good.
that's the thing that makes them feel like a man the most, is like, I'm taking care of the business, I'm taking care of different things. And so I think that to be able to say to them that we could probably do better together might be something that could be heard, but not maybe not.
You said something that we don't talk enough to one another.
Right.
We don't talk enough to one another to even be able to hear and know what one needs. I think sometimes it's as easy as saying, what do you need from me? Or this is what I need from you. Something as simple as conversation can save everything. Right.
But I think that it's like this is kind of the point of the Manhood Tree. The reason why I created it is because men become stoic. They come to themselves. They're kind of like battling the world alone on an island. And so it's like, to be able to get them to feel comfortable expressing themselves and saying what's on their mind, and being okay with maybe being able to share an emotion beyond anger or happiness. Men know how to be happy sometimes, and they know how to be mad. But what else can you do? And so I think that we're trying to unlock that for the men and help them to be able to be their full selves without any restriction.
That was a good word, unlock. Unlock, and knowing and allowing men to know it's safe. Certain spaces, not every space is safe for you to unlock, to be vulnerable, or unlock to really show that side of you that you may not even be comfortable with. But I know it's a process. It's not easy. So that's why what you're doing is so necessary for our men. And like I said, please go to themanhoodtree.com so you can know how to engage with what Abdul is doing through his initiatives. You also created something, the Fatherhood Monologues. Talk about that.
The Fatherhood Monologues. I mean, we ask people to write stories about being a father or being fathered. This started about 5 years ago, where we asked 10 men to start off that project with us. Since then, we've probably done we have 4 cohorts of men that we've done over the years. Plus, we probably worked with a few thousand people to do the workshop, where they get an opportunity to write a fatherhood monologue within 20 minutes and share their workshop. And so once again, I think that it's not like you can go somewhere and talk about your experience of fatherhood unless you're going to go to therapy or something like that. So it's really like being able to say, like if you get a room of people together, so like the last time I did the workshop, let's say there was 300 people in the room. And so I did a workshop with 300 people. That's 300 different stories. you
Yeah.
know, and some people, some of the stories are going to be happy and they're going to have the greatest father of all time, or some of the stories are going to be very sad. They're going to be
Yeah.
stories of loss. They're going to be stories of pain. They're going to be stories of disappointment. And so I think that the fatherhood monologues, it's like a pulling back the curtain a little bit on an aspect of somebody's life that they've accepted. You know, they've moved on, but they've never really had an opportunity to share their
No.
feelings about it openly. And so, I mean, we've had some very powerful father
Yes.
monologues written. You know, so you know, we've done the cohorts with the men, we've done a play, and then of course we do the workshop where it just allows, you know, men and women to write fatherhood monologues. And I mean, mostly I use it when I'm working with like DCF. I use
Mhm.
it to make as a tool to make them understand the way you feel about your father, good, bad, or indifferent. The
Yeah.
people you serve, the children you serve, feel the same way. And so, are you becoming a person that is gonna make that child have to experience a negative experience with
Wow.
their father, or are you the person that's gonna help them to be able to have a positive experience with their father?
Wow.
And so,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think the workshop is really good. I'm actually gonna be doing one this Friday with a
Okay.
church group, and I'm very excited about that.
So people can literally go onto your website and they can engage with you or book you independent for their own organizations?
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
Organizations, groups, you know, whatever, you know, as long as you got about 10 people. I mean, like I said, I've done it for as many as like 300. And
Okay.
and that's interesting because 300 is a tremendous amount of people, because, you know, part of the workshop is getting up and sharing, you know.
Yes.
And so it's one thing to share if you're in a room with 10 people and maybe everybody gets a chance to share, but when you're in a room with 300 people, just get in front of that whole audience and sharing something that's very personal may not be the best, you know, the best thing. But I mean, at a conference you don't really have a choice sometimes. And so,
Exactly.
you know, but it is a very powerful workshop.
It listen, anything centered around dealing with restoring our black men, you
Hmm.
know, well, I'll say black and brown men,
Yeah. And
but
white men, or
it,
everybody, all races
every
got fathers. Yeah.
manhood, it
Yeah. Yeah.
embodies a multitude. Let's say
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But being able to really pour back into them is literally putting things back in its proper alignment.
Yeah. Hmm.
That's how I look at it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Equipping our men. So if our men are strong and they're strong in their mind and their will to do, then guess what it's going to do for the family?
Hmm.
Strengthen the family,
That's
you
correct.
know?
Yeah.
So, wow. Okay. So now
Hmm.
you said you're going to allow women to do the monologues because, see, I've been privy. I sat in the audience of a monologue, a fatherhood
Hmm.
monologue.
Yeah.
And when you say powerful, I'm telling you, all types of emotions are stirred up.
Hmm.
And everybody has a different story, a different experience with their fathers,
Yeah.
or them being a father to their children,
Right.
and it really puts you in a place. I know for me, it put me in a place of immediately, it took me to the relationship with my father.
Hmm.
And what would my life have been if I had a father
Mm.
that was more present,
Right.
that poured more into me as a daughter?
Mm. Interesting.
Because I found myself with the absence of a father going down a journey of having to save or feeling like I could save a man, my
Yeah.
mate, whoever I was in relationship with. And I figured out, life does not work like that. I don't have the power to save anybody, not even myself.
Mm. Well,
So,
I said interesting because I felt like that would be an interesting fatherhood monologue, because you take, it's like you basically, instead of necessarily telling your personal story, you
yes.
kind of like go into your imagination and say, what would it be like? That's a, you know, and so that's the
Who will I
beauty of
be
the
today?
monologues, is that,
Yeah,
you know, you can write about whatever you want. For women, they can only write about being fathered because they can't be a father, right? And so,
exactly.
but that twist you just put, I thought that would be a very interesting monologue, because
Yeah.
it allows for you to say, well, this is the reality, this is what happened, this is what I know, but I wonder if I would have had this an engaged father that came home every day, that, you know, went to work and showed up to my events, what impact would that have had on me? You know?
Absolutely. See,
Yeah.
you got me thinking right now. You have me thinking right now because
Yeah.
what you just allowed me to do is envision that life that I
Yeah.
would have wanted to see
Mm-hmm.
because I never physically had the experience of the presence of a father full time in my life.
Right.
But what would I have wanted to see and how much more would my life be today?
Right. I mean,
Ooh,
I'm sure it's interesting because I'm sure you have some ideas, right? You have some
yeah,
things
through
that
the lives of
you
others.
you know that you think like, oh man, this would have been like this. And
Exactly.
so I think that yeah, that would be a interesting write
Okay.
up. Yeah.
Put me down. Listen, put me down.
Got you. We meet on Saturday at 1 o'clock.
Oh, this Saturday?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me know.
Virtual.
Okay.
It's virtual. You just
That's
you can
good.
join it from
That's
anywhere.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Um, but I tell you, this has been just incredible. Is there
Mhm.
anything you want to make sure you leave with the people about the manhood tree?
Well, I mean, we didn't talk about our men's health as community health initiative,
We
which is
got
extremely
time.
important.
Yes. Let's
Um,
talk about that.
yeah,
Let's stop right there. Let's talk
hmm
about that because you are a big, huge advocate in the Hartford area
yeah.
for men's health. And that's how we got our family doctor through your
Hey, good to hear. That's good to hear. Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that once again, as men go, the family goes. As men go, the community goes. And so if our men are not don't have a relationship with their doctor, if they don't have if they're not going to get their tests that they need to get,
yeah.
tested at certain parts of their life, the likelihood of them being around is less and less. And so
Yeah.
ultimately, what we're saying is that if you want to be here for your family, you want to be an active father, you want to be strong, you want to be fit, go to the doctor. That's it. We want you to go to the doctor and we want you to feel comfortable with your doctor to be able to say, hey, this is something I've been experiencing. This is something I'm dealing with. We want you not to just go to the doctor and just be able to check the box, but we really want you to be actively involved with your doctor and consistently going to go see the doctor, the dentist, every type of doctor, the eye doctor, all of that. Because when your health is good, when you are aware of what's going on, you could do something about it if you need to, but also it's the higher likelihood that your spouse and children are also engaged with the doctor at the same level.
So I just have to bring this into this conversation because men, it's a challenge to get
Mm-hmm.
men to go to
Yep.
the doctor. So
Right.
being able to, and when I say you go hard for this,
Yeah.
you go hard for getting men to the doctors to see about their health because it's preventative, go early enough so you don't have to worry about it later on.
Well,
But
well, this
men,
is the thing.
go
This is
ahead.
the thing. When I was young, I thought I was invincible. I thought,
Mm,
I'm healthy. I could run. I could jump. I do all this stuff. And so I didn't go to the doctors from the time I went to college at 18 to the time I got kidney failure at 25. I didn't go to the doctor. And I knew I had high blood pressure during that time, but I assumed that I was doing okay because I could
yeah,
still do the active things that young people can do. But as you see, the story ends with me getting kidney failure. And
yeah.
so that kidney failure could have been prevented if I would have gone to the doctor, if I would have taken my medication. And so I think that a lot of men, once again, are out there, they're on the grind, they're making it happen. They don't want a doctor to uh, do certain things to them. They don't want to have to take a medication. They don't want to feel weak. But the ultimate the outcome ends up being that you're actually really sick and you still have to get taken care of. Or you're like really sick and you die and now your family has to struggle because you're not here. And so I think that the reason why it's important to me is like my personal journey of health, but also recognizing that if you could prevent something and you could be able to be at your best because you've gotten the help you need, why not?
Oh, thank you for sharing that. That's real intimate and personal. But
Mm,
I mean, the power of your story
yeah,
is sharing your journey that allows men to see why it's so necessary for them to see about their own health,
that's right.
to prevent, you know? Um, so how do you, let me say this, because I know you talked about six hoods
Hmm.
and you talked about the six hoods on all different levels. And I did put it in to the chat: neighborhood, boyhood, teen and young adulthood, brotherhood, and fatherhood. So I know we've been talking a lot about
And
fatherhood,
manhood. And manhood.
and manhood is the last one. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I know we've been talking a lot about fatherhood, but how do you engage our young adults that's so consumed by this digital era, the social media era, to really know the importance of who they are as young adult men?
Mm. Well, you know, most of my work is not with young adult men. Young
Okay.
adulthood is really for the men who are in our program to kind of look back at their young adulthood, not necessarily working specifically with young adults. I think that, you know, we need to have all types of programs for all different types of populations.
Yes.
And I think that there's tons of great programming out there for young adults. And so my focus is really on men who are kind of like, you know, 25 and
Definitely.
up, who have been through these different phases, and I would even say maybe even 30 and up,
Okay.
because in my estimation, manhood begins at 30, and so like up until that point, you're kind of like a young adult, and so just I'm not a expert, but this is what I decided. I decided young
Do you
adulthood
know
is
what?
from
You know,
20 to
it's so
30.
funny. I
Yeah,
think you have put in those hours. You know,
yeah,
they say you put in a certain amount, 10,000 hours, you put a certain amount of hours and you
yeah,
become an expert at it.
yeah.
This has been a part of your journey,
Of
you
course.
know?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad that you did say that, you know what, my expertise is here or my focus is here,
Mm-hmm.
because you're not trying to be everything to everybody.
No.
You're very targeted and very focused in who you're catering to.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you're right. There's so many initiatives right now taking place centered around fatherhoods and manhood, and but I'm not familiar with them. I am familiar with your platform.
Right. Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, but also, I know you're open to also partnering with people.
Oh, of course.
And this isn't just something that's based in Connecticut. This is national. This is something that can go abroad because
Mm-hmm.
men are everywhere.
They're
They're just
everywhere.
not here.
They're all anywhere you look, you'll find a man. And so,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, some of the comments, we have Dr. Teneri Drummond Smith that says, let me just post it. She said, my father always said, if it is still working, no need to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Now my father's story has changed as he gets older.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It goes right back to the point you said. I thought I was just, listen, kids think they're invincible. They could do anything,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
until the story changes.
Yeah.
But the
Well,
good
like
thing
I said
is,
before, you know, with fatherhood, it's, you know, I have a concept called fatherhood is forever. And it's just a reminder for men that, you know, we're not trying to raise our children to their 18 years old. We're trying to we're going to be it's probably one of the longest relationships you'll have in your life is with your child, depending on when you become a father. With the kids, it's their longest relationship, right? From the time they're born to the
yeah,
time
that's
they
true.
die, whether you're here or not, they have some kind of relationship with their father. And so or not, maybe because their father
Exactly,
isn't
exactly.
involved. However, when you have an engaged and involved father, it's an extremely important relationship. And so I try to remind men, fathers, that you are in this forever. You know, and so the things that you do, good or bad, are going to impact your child for the rest of their life.
That's
And
true.
so when you're a good father, like let's take my dad. My dad, he passed away almost 10 years ago. But I think about things that my father taught me, things that my father did, probably things that my father said all the time. And so it's like fatherhood is one of those things where you could either have an impact that is
Mhm.
positive or negative. You can either have an impact that lasts forever, when somebody has to your child has to make a decision, they're thinking about what would you do in that situation,
Absolutely.
or they're like, I'm not doing none of the stuff this dude did because he wasn't a good person in my life. And
Yeah.
so I want the fathers to choose to be engaged and involved and do the most they can for their children.
Yeah, that's powerful. And you know, it's so funny when you said that I'm not doing anything because he wasn't present or whatever. A lot of times we don't realize we end up showing a lot of traits of even the absent father in our
Of
life.
course. Yeah,
Right?
yeah. You know,
So
and it's like where do you know it's another thing is, you know, and I mean this is more for the men out there. It's like, where do you learn to be a father? So if you don't have a
mm,
father in your life, you're just starting from scratch. And if you do have a father in your life, some of the things that my father did when I was growing up, I didn't take those with my kids, because I don't think it was, you know, this, I didn't necessarily like certain things that he did. And I had to have a realization about that. And so I think that, you know, fatherhood is, you know, anybody could become a father. Like, you know, we know the process how you become a father, right? But it's like once you become a father, and you know, it's really some work that I think fathers, men need to do, so that they can be so they can do to be the best father, so their children get the best outcome. They're not just making it up as they go along, you know. So
so let's say so anyone can have a baby,
anyone
but
can
it
have
doesn't necessarily make them a father.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah,
Yeah. So listen, it's not an easy job.
no,
Listen,
it gets
listen.
easier as they get older. You know, it's not so bad right now. I'll tell you
Oh,
that
because your kids are out the house. Hey,
pretty good.
you know what they're experiencing? This is when you can tell all the teachings when we think kids aren't listening, right? When
Mm-hmm.
they go off on their own to college,
Right.
then you start seeing all those teachings that you taught them show up in their lives, right?
That's right. Yeah.
While they're out of the house.
Right.
But whew, all right. So this has been real good. I
Yeah.
mean, this has been really insightful to the point of just knowing that there are places that men can go
Mm-hmm.
and get support and know that it's safe, because a lot of times people just don't trust. People have
Right.
been hurt so deeply that they don't know where it's okay to just say, can I just drop this load here?
Mm. Yeah.
You know, so thank you for providing that space. And once again, thank you for just providing a space that gives my husband an outlet to be able to be heard. Women, he's calling now. Don't he know I'm on my live? So I think people, women sometimes let loose, release, let men have the space to
Mm-hmm.
go. And I'm just generally speaking, I'm not calling this out to anybody, but I'm just generally speaking, if you are that person that want to hold the reins, like where's he going, who's he with, and all that stuff, it is so important for men to have an outlet of their own,
Right.
for men to have other men that they can be in company with, that
Mm-hmm.
they can know is safe for them to just release even intimate things that they just don't want to talk about. It's only going to help strengthen your relationship,
That's right. That's right.
depending on your relationship. So-
Mm.
but with that, in the final sip, so we have, in the final sip is when we just leave like thoughts of encouragement, wisdom. But I want to say this to you because there's a lot that you are involved in, even from your own practice, your company, your business, My People's Clinical Service. You have been around, you're going into your 20-year anniversary, right?
Yeah,
And
we
it's
passed
one of the
20 years.
leading Black agencies in Hartford, Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
And so before we go, I want you to talk a little bit about that, because 20 years is a long time to be in a space of helping community
Mm.
and really being able to build those that are in need.
Right.
So talk a little bit about how did you even birth that My People's Clinical Service? What inspired you to even go that route?
Mm. Well, you know, I mean, I think that the biggest thing for me is that I found that I didn't necessarily want to. I didn't like being an employee. I
I'm
didn't
with
like,
you.
you know, working for, you know, having a boss, somebody telling me what to do. And I
Mhm.
mean, when I think about it now, I think it was a pretty audacious idea to say, oh, I'm going to start my own business. You know, after I just had my master's degree, maybe 6 years, I'm just going to go start my own business. But I think that, you know, certain things, when your life is predestined, there's things that are, already set for you. And
Yes.
so when I started thinking about starting my people, there were some very specific things that I wanted to offer that I thought were important, namely like doing some fatherhood programming. And but I think that as we went down that journey, we found that maybe we were a little ahead of our time with fatherhood, but we could still do some mentoring, we could still do some in-home therapy, and so we were able to get out the door pretty quickly. And 20 years goes by very. I don't know if it goes by quickly, but I mean, you look up one day and you go from being a young
Exactly.
person with a head full of hair to a bald head with a great beard. So and I think it's a blessing to be able to be in business for that
Yeah.
amount of time, because 20 years is a long time. I always say, if you want to know what 20 years really looks like, I have a daughter who's 20, and so it's
Yeah.
like to just kind of like put it to a
Measure
person.
it. Yeah.
It really is something. But I'm still young enough where we're not done, and so there's
That's
still
right.
a lot of things that we want to do, and we're consistently working on those things so that we can kind of like continue to move forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know you and your wife work in business together.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
not easy. That listen, that you live together, you work together, you do life together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to like each other to be able to do that.
Well, it's a process, right?
It is.
I think that the benefit of doing something for 20 years is that you can go through all the ups and downs, and you kind of like end out on the end where you're kind of like saying, "Woo, we made it through it." So I
Exactly.
think that over time you learn how to work together better and accept each other. And I think there's certain parts where you get closer, and other parts where you say, "Let me give you your space." And so I think
That's
that
real.
we're doing okay.
That's real life.
Yeah.
But I definitely can relate to that because I'm going into 18 years, even in my publishing business. And,
Mhm.
sometimes I think we constantly work so much, we don't even take a pause to take a minute to say, look at what I've accomplished. And
Right.
when I go back at the end of every year, I kind of reflect through things that I have put on my list over the years just to see what I've accomplished over the years.
Hmm.
And so, whew, it's a long
Yeah.
time, but you know
Yeah.
what? You're doing amazing, amazing work. And
Thank you.
here we are today. And may
Yeah.
there be another 20 plus years, really giving back to community and
Right.
helping those move forward. So in this final sip,
Yeah.
here we are, guys, taking a final sip, just to leave some words of encouragement for you. It has been truly a blessing to have Abdul on today, really talking about manhood, giving us some insight on how to make it a little easier or help lift some of the weight off of men and giving them a safe space to know that it's okay to reset and cancel old programming to establish new programming.
Mm.
But sometimes you just need the tools to do it, right?
That's right.
So, with that, is there any last things you want to say? I know I asked this question before, but we wasn't finished with the conversation. So, is there any last things you want to say, leaving wisdom and just giving insight to those out there that may be struggling or not?
Well, no, I would just say to everyone, if you get a chance, go by the Manhood Tree website. You could always catch our podcast on Tuesday nights at 6 o'clock, live on Facebook and YouTube and other places. Join into that, and
That's
uh,
the Manhood Tree podcast. What is
yeah,
that?
yeah,
I'm
yep,
going to just put it in the notes so people can have it.
yep. Tuesday nights live on Facebook. And then I would just also say, I always say, never stop dreaming. If there's something that you want to achieve, you're something you're kind of working towards, get out there and make it happen. This is what life is all about. So, and then I
Okay.
say peace. Yeah.
So, what time on Tuesdays?
6 p.m.
6 p.m. on Facebook. And the Facebook is under the Manhood Tree?
Correct.
Okay, good. Great. All right. So now they can definitely make sure you stop by, go to the website, themanhoodtree.com, get all the information, a lot about what we talked about today and how you can become a part of that. And if you are an organization, a group, a company, a community that really want to engage in the Manhood Tree and Abdul services, make sure you go and you sign up to bring him to your organization, to your group. So those men that are waiting for something like this can get the tools and the resources that they need. So don't be afraid. Just go in, and sometimes you just got to take the leap, right?
Exactly.
And so with that, the Manhood Tree, it reminds us that strong men don't just stand tall. They grow deep. When men are given room to heal, reflect, and connect, families will flourish, communities will stabilize, and generations will thrive. So, guys, thank you. You know how we do. We sip slow. And in that sip, really take the time to encourage your man, to let him know it's okay. It's okay to get the tools and the resources you need to be stronger, because you're more powerful than you realize. So, Mr. Abdul, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Of course. Thank you.
All right. If you could just stand by for 1 second, we're going to bring this all to an end. All right. Thank you, guys. And once again, we're just going to do this quick ad. If you are someone that wants to support Morning Brew with Germaine, then you know what? Let me play this for you. And welcome to Morning Brew with your girl Germaine on Buy Me a Coffee. Every cup you buy helps fuel inspiration, conversations, and creative content for our growing community. So grab a seat, stop by for a coffee break, sip with us, and thank you so much for pouring into purpose with me. Morning Brew, I'll see you in the next coffee break. So thank you again, and we will see you tomorrow for another Morning Brew with Germaine. Have a great day. Please be safe out there. And remember, Fridays is Authors Brew Friday, so we have a new author in studio on Friday. Talk to you soon. Have a great day. Bye.